What up, what up? We are back at it again, diving into Luke chapter 5. Jesus, what are you up to?
Yep. So we see that Jesus has drawn a bit of a crowd. There's a lot of people that are pressing around wanting to hear his teaching. So they're at the Sea of Galilee, and he sees two boats. And he's like, I know, I'm going to get on these boats and use kind of the water and the land to project his voice so everyone can hear what's happening. He gets in the boats, and when he stops talking, he talks to these fishermen. They've been out all night and have caught nothing. And he tells them, hey,
Sad day. Or
try
sad night.
Sad night, yeah. Terrible night. And he's like, hey, try it one more time. Throw your nets down and see what happens. And out of faith, they throw their nets down, and we see that they are like stacked with fish.
So many, the nets are breaking.
And it like almost sinks their boats.
Yeah,
they have to
start
like
screaming
they
at
call
everybody.
in, like, come on.
People come
help us
rushing
out.
in,
Yeah.
pulling this massive haul of fish in.
Super crazy.
Yeah.
And so Peter's response when this happens, it's not score, we just made bank. His response is, depart from me, I am a sinful man. So good. And then after that, Jesus calls them and said, hey, you're going to be fishers of men. And then we see that they leave everything in order to follow Jesus.
Peace out.
That's it.
All right, observations, man. What do we got going on here? All right, first thing we need to note is these are professional fishermen. This is how they live, right?
Yeah.
They go out day and night, whenever, to get these fish. And they're out at night, actually. Night is an interesting thing for them to be out there and to catch nothing. This is a bummer day.
Super.
Right, they're having a super bummer day. They're coming in, and then they run into Jesus. He's teaching, and then he hops on their boat, and they're probably like, ugh, this is the last thing I need right now.
Just want to go to sleep.
Jesus
It's been a long
is teaching,
day.
so maybe they're hearing what he's teaching and what's going on. And then he tells them, hey, toss those nets in. And they're like, all right, I guess so, man. But like, dude, we just had like the worst night ever, whatever. I'm gonna huck these nets in and see what happens. And then they start filling up with fish. So Jesus, this is an interesting point of Jesus actually meeting the bummer of the time.
Yeah.
Have you ever been bummed out, just having the worst time ever? And Jesus just like fixes it. He has the power to fix it in this moment. And he's like, cool, toss your nets in, get that. So they could easily respond to this in a jackpot. We just found the dude that's going to make our business boom. They are fishermen by trade, and this guy can make fish fill up their nets so much so that they are breaking. But that is not how they respond. The response is actually key to all of this, right? We see, but when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. He responds with humility. He's confronted with this holy, great power of Jesus, and it causes him to realize his sinfulness, realize his brokenness, and falls down at his knees. And Jesus tells him, don't be afraid. Once again, that phrase comes up. Like when the angels are popping in, don't be afraid, it's still going on, because when we're met with this holy power, maybe our response should be to be afraid.
Yeah.
But Jesus is changing things. He's making us not be afraid. He's inviting us into a different story. And he immediately directs the attention away from the miracle. We actually don't really consider the miracle anymore. It's like fish, and then
Jesus.
and now it's his response. Depart from me. I am sinful. I am broken. So it's humility. It's an awareness of sin. And then he calls them to fish for men. Gives them new purpose. And then they go after him. They leave everything. They leave the fish behind.
No, not the fish.
Not the fish. It's like this huge, massive catch that they could have cashed in. They leave everything and they go after and they follow Jesus into a great adventure. And Jesus is calling us into the same thing. He's calling us into humility, an awareness of who we are. But when we're met with it, we're not met with like, you fool, you unworthy, you all these things. It's like, no, we're met with grace and mercy and love and forgiveness. And then we're drawn into the story. He doesn't just like you're good now, give him a thumbs up. It's like, no, now come with me. Let's go. We're doing this. And another thing to note, calls them to be fishers of men. And just this idea, they didn't have fishing poles back then. Yeah, they weren't slinging the lines out, just pulling up one fish at a time. These were nets. They're casting the nets out and catching whatever they get. So there is a little something here to this idea of when we are sharing the good news of Jesus with people, we need to cast a big net. One of the sayings I tell people when we're talking about sharing Jesus, never say no for somebody. Never assume that they wouldn't want to know about Jesus or don't care about Jesus or mad at you for following Jesus or whatever, but to cast this wide net out and to be constantly telling people the good news of Jesus, drawing them in to Jesus. So that's huge. All right. Big takeaway time.
Big takeaway time.
What's your big takeaway, Jake?
I love seeing Simon Peter's response when Jesus tells him, hey, throw your nets. Like you were saying, like they've had a bummer night. They're like not having a good day. And his response, he doesn't respond with like, all right, whatever. Like I got nothing else to do with my time. He responds out of faith. He says, at your word, I will let down the nets. And so he responds out of faith. Like you were even mentioning, like he's probably heard some of Jesus' teaching, kind of has a rough idea who he is. So at this point, he's responding with faith. And then later we see that he was like all in for Jesus. Like he's like leaving everything to go and pursue Jesus, to be with him. And I just think that's really cool. I think there's something for us to follow after that model of faith.
Yeah, and that's a major theme throughout Luke, and even through these first few verses that we're going through, is people responding in faith, trusting in Jesus, and that faith is rewarded immediately, which is rad. My big takeaway is Jesus is calling sinful, broken people to become like him, do what he did. See, the Bible is full of these imperfect, broken people doing awesome things for God. And so often we can feel like we got to clean ourselves up. We got to start stacking up those good deeds, make ourselves worthy to be on Jesus's team, to be part of the family of God and all these things. And it's like, no, he's the one that makes you worthy. He is the one who has called you. He is the one that has produced forgiveness and giving you his grace and his mercy. And now you're called to do the things that he did, to rescue people out of darkness, to share his goodness and his story with everyone around you, with your life. And you are qualified because he said so, not because of anything that you're doing. Yeah. And that's really key.
That's really good.
Like God can and will use you. You just need to respond in faith and go out and do it. Cast those nets out, people.
Yep. All right. Silly question time.
Silly question time.
All right. What would you do with all the fish? You got 2 boats loaded with fish. What are you doing?
I'm starting a fish flop stand. I'm going to start, working the fish leather, getting it going, making fish flops, dude.
like flip-flops, but with
flip-flops, but for fishing. I don't know, dude. There's a lot of fish. Number one, I don't enjoy fish.
I hate fish.
I know it's like the jam back where Jesus was at, but I'm not a fish dude. So fish flops.
I would just start hucking them at people.
I mean, that would be kind of awesome.
Just smack people in the face with the fish.
You just got slapped with a fish. No, but honestly, I mean, turning those fish in, making the bank.
Dude. Start selling them, giving them out to people.
Being generous. Sure. Maybe.
Throw them back in.
Yeah, seriously. Do you even have enough space to get rid of it? I don't know. This is their profession. They're all about it, dude.
I know. Think about having to cut up all that fish though, because you have to clean them out and whatever. That's a lot of work.
Have you ever done that?
I fished once. I caught a fish, but then I gave it to someone else, and they kind of cut it up and then gave it back to me.
They did the deed.
Yeah, but it's pretty gross.
I think everyone. There's a total side note. Everyone should totally do that at some point. You need to understand where your food comes from, people.
Yep. The supermarket.
No. All right. Well, that was a good time. Fish flops and slapping people with fish.
Oh yeah.
Great time. Catch you next time.
Peace.